Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the Drive Clean Chicago webinar on the Drive Clean Taxi Voucher Fund. We are excited to have you join us to learn a little bit more about our important incentive program for taxis and liveries, and have a great lineup of speakers that are going to provide you with very helpful information. Before we get started, I want to do a little housekeeping just to give you some important information. This is going to be a recorded webinar, and we're going to make sure that this is made available on our Drive Clean Chicago website. So if you don't catch all the entire presentation, we will have it available online. Secondly, at the end of the presentation, we're going to have 4 presenters. Once all 4 presenters have presented, we will carry out a question and answer series. So please make sure that you've entered in your audio pin so that you can participate at the end. What you'll need to do is just raise your hand, and what I can do is then unmute you so that you can ask your question. Thirdly, we have attached 3 helpful documents for your review. We've attached the Drive Clean Taxi fact sheet, the Drive Clean Taxi implementation manual, which helps give you information on how to participate in the program. And then lastly, the Drive Clean Taxi flow chart, basically a nice overview of the steps on what it takes to participate in the program. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to begin with introducing our speakers for today. First, we're going to start off with Samantha Bingham, who is with the City of Chicago Department of Transportation. She is overseeing the entire Drive Clean Chicago program and is working to support the City of Chicago Sustainability Program. She will introduce briefly the Drive Clean Chicago program and set the stage for our Drive Clean Taxi program. Then we have Tom Brotherton with CalStart. He is the project director and contractor under the City of Chicago Department of Transportation, responsible for the development and implementation of the program. He will give a quick overview of what it means to participate in the Drive Clean Taxi Fund, and he will let you know who can be eligible, how much you can apply for, and how you can get information on the eligible technologies available through the program. Third, we will have Priscilla Berrigan with Tetra Tech. She is our voucher incentive program administrator, responsible for helping you apply for the attractive incentives offered through the program. She will walk you through step by step on how to apply, what documents are required, and then make sure that you have the information you need to successfully participate. Lastly, we will have Rupal Vethat with BACP. She will talk a little bit about the attractive incentives that are available for wheelchair-accessible taxis and liveries. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to toss it off now to Samantha. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alicia, and thanks for everyone who's joining us this morning. We developed this webinar today to help you understand deeper the Drive Clean Taxi program and go through this process of how to apply and what's eligible for under the program. This is a bit different than our previous clean taxi incentives that the city has administered. So we wanted to take some time this morning to help you understand more broadly how to participate in this program. You might be wondering why the City of Chicago is even offering this program, but looking at the city's history and our sustainability goals and aspirations, it's definitely clear that the city would be playing a leadership role in this region to encourage the use of advanced vehicle technologies. The City of Chicago has been a national leader in applying new technologies and policies to support the city's sustainability goals. The City of Chicago's fleet itself has over 150 compressed natural gas vehicles, over 600 hybrids, over 2,400 flex fuel vehicles, and we also have the first all-electric refuse truck in North America. So those are just some examples of what the city is doing with our own fleet to reduce petroleum and to improve our environment. But we've also been partnering with the U.S. Department of Energy's Clean Cities program for over 20 years to support education and outreach activities throughout this region to encourage voluntary efforts by local fleets, both public and private, to help green their fleets. This initiative started 20 years ago, and the city has been supporting the Chicago Area Clean Cities Coalition for the same amount of time. If you're interested, the Chicago Area Clean Cities hosts many free workshops and seminars throughout the region. We actually are hosting an event tomorrow on propane and natural gas vehicles in DuPage County. You can learn more about that free workshop at www.chicagocleancities.org. Secondly, the city has, put our policy initiatives behind our support of clean transportation. The mayor has made statements numerous times about how innovative and fuel-efficient vehicle technology should be the norm in Chicago and not the exception. The city's Sustainable Chicago 2015 plan, which is the city's roadmap for sustainability, and the Chicago Department of Transportation Chicago Forward both call for not just the city's fleet, but fleets throughout the city of Chicago to improve emissions and to improve miles per gallon as much as we can. We understand that there are barriers to implementing these technologies, and one of the barriers, we're probably on the highest on all fleets who we work with on their list, is that they understand that reducing emissions and improving fuel use is important. They understand that our air quality issues in this region can be solved in part by using cleaner vehicles, and that we have a broader impact with greenhouse gas emissions and its impact on climate change. But it's hard to take action when these technologies cost more than business as usual. So that's the number one barrier that fleets have identified for us in restricting them from going to greener fleets in this region. So that's the role that we can play. So the city of Chicago has, on behalf of the region, brought home the bacon and applied for federal funding to help us bring resources and leverage federal funding to bring resources to this region to help fleets reduce that barrier to adoption of greener vehicles. Next slide. So our latest program that helps to provide incentives for cleaner vehicles in this region is Drive Clean Chicago. It is an incentive program for fleets and alternative fuel station providers in the Chicago area. It helps achieve the city's sustainability goals by helping fleets reduce and replace petroleum use. And they're doing so through the use of more efficient vehicles that are available through this program, as well as alternative fuel vehicles. And this program is funded by Federal Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program funding. This funding comes to our region due to our non-attainment status, due to our poor air quality. So we're investing these funds and helping fleets improve the efficiency and improve the fuel that they're using in their vehicles to help us gain cleaner air in this region. Next slide. So to help identify and understand the organizations responsible for this program, we put this slide together. So the Drive Clean Chicago program is a program of the Chicago Department of Transportation. CalSTART is a contractor to the City of Chicago Department of Transportation. Let me take a step back. I am the project manager for this project, so I'm your point of contact here at the City of Chicago for the program. I've been at the city for 9 years and have managed over $54 million in federal funding for similar type initiatives. So I'm definitely experienced and happy to be working with CalSTART and their team on this program as we roll it out. CalSTART is our prime contractor who is responsible for developing and implementing the Drive Clean Chicago program on behalf of the City of Chicago. CalSTART is a national not-for-profit dedicated to expanding the use of clean vehicles, and they manage the day-to-day operations and the team that are below them working on various activities of implementation of the programs. Tetra Tech is a subcontractor to CalSTART. They're providing support in the administration and technical assessment of the Voucher program, the system behind the system that you see on our website. And then Legacy Environmental is providing outreach and analysis to CalSTART for this program. Next slide. So under Drive Clean Chicago, there are 3 distinct funding programs. This slide provides a snapshot of all 3 of these funds. Drive Clean Truck is a voucher fund that launched last December. This is an incentive available to fleets operating in the 6-county Chicago region to help them purchase or lease hybrid or electric Class 2 through Class 8 trucks. Drive Clean Taxi, I'm not going to go into much detail because we're going to be going into a lot more detail on the program in a minute. And then there's Drive Clean Station. Drive Clean Station has not opened up yet. This is the 3rd and final program we will be launching under Drive Clean Chicago. Drive Clean Station will provide $1.4 million in incentives to compressed natural gas and DC fast charging fueling station providers. We hope to launch this program by the end of 2015. You can find more information about the other programs on our website, which is at the bottom of each of these slides in the presentation, which is drivecleanchicago.com. And at this time, I'm going to introduce Tom Brotherton, who's going to go into more details about Drive Clean Taxi. Take it away, Tom.
Thanks, Sam. So in my presentation, I'll give you some of the background on why we're doing this and then how to participate. So why clean taxis? Well, because fleets have very high mileage and fuel consumption compared to normal use of vehicles. You can save lots of money on fuel costs, at the same time reducing emissions, reducing noise. And these taxis run around a rather limited area, all of which are within a very specific non-attainment area. So the air quality benefit directly impacts the area that you really most want to improve. Likewise, there are many visitors to Chicago and the surrounding areas who take taxicabs, so it gives them a positive first impression of the city of Chicago and the area by showing the fact that Chicago and its taxis are making a move to drive clean. Next slide, please. So what I'll cover in my set of slides is who can participate, what vehicles are eligible, who are the vendors and dealers who are participating, how much do you get, and how the program works. Next slide, please. So who can receive the incentives? It is open to taxis, liveries, and public passenger vehicles, all of whom have to be licensed and in good standing with the City of Chicago BACP. So for those of you on the call, if you are already licensed and in good standing, you qualify as a vehicle owner or operator to participate in the program. You do apply through an approved vendor or dealer, and I'll touch on that a little later in successive slides. Next slide. So what vehicles are eligible? So the categories are new electric or new compressed natural gas vehicles or CNG conversions. And you'll see a website URL down there, Drive Clean Chicago. Here's an image of what that website looks like when you click on it. If you look at that top ribbon, you'll see that blue bar, and we've clicked on Clean Taxi, and a drop-down menu came up, and under that drop-down menu, you see eligible vehicles. Next slide, please. So when you click on that eligible vehicle button on the ribbon, this is what comes up. You'll see a list of all the eligible vehicles, and this is a live list. So as more new vehicles are added, there'll be an update to this list that's on the website. So it'll grow over the course of time. And if this were a live screen, you could scroll down and scroll through the full list of all of the eligible vehicles. Next slide. So who are the approved vendors and dealers? So vendors and dealers who sell those eligible vehicles from the previous screen are all listed on another screen on this. So go to the next slide, please. And here you'll see the list of approved vendors. And once again, we're adding to this list day by day as new dealers sign up and new vendors sign up to participate in the program. So on this list, you'll see that there's a vendor starting in that left column, and then you'll also see their affiliations on the far right column. Those are the systems or manufacturers who each of these vendors represent. So if you're interested in a particular technology that shows up on the right side of the screen, you can identify who the particular vendors are who represent that technology. Next slide. So how much money would you get? The incentives cover 80% of the incremental cost of a new vehicle or 80% of the cost of a conversion, all of which is capped at $10,000 per vehicle. So as part of this program, as an example, if there's an electric taxi that's made available, we take the cost of a comparable conventionally fueled taxi, look at the cost of the electric taxi. The difference between the two represents an incremental cost. So you're eligible to get up to 80% of that incremental cost, once again capped at $10,000. If it's a conversion, we take the cost of the entire conversion, including all the labor cost. You take 80% of that bill, and once again capped at $10,000, that's the incentive you'll get. There's a total of $1.275 million in incentives in the program. So there are a good number of incentives that will be made available. Next slide. So in a nutshell, how does it work? A vehicle operator or owner works with the vendor or dealer to select an eligible vehicle or conversion. Once that operator agrees, yep, that's a vehicle I want to buy, the vendor or dealer requests the voucher from us. The incentive is applied at the time of purchase. So this really is a difference from many other incentive programs. You don't have to wait around for a rebate that maybe might take several months. You don't have to pay the full cost of the vehicle and then at some later date be reimbursed. You'll actually pay a lower price at the time of purchase, and we will reimburse the vendor or dealer with the incentive. So it really makes it a little more user-friendly for the participating fleets in this program because they get a discount right at the time of purchase. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to kick it over to Priscilla, who will walk you through the specific application process of how to apply for a voucher.
Thanks, Tom. So I'm Priscilla, and I will be managing the Voucher Processing Center, the VPC. So basically, I'll be helping the vendors process their vouchers, through the whole process. So we can go to the next slide. So here I just have a quick overview of the whole process. So kind of like Tom said, a vehicle purchaser will select a vehicle from the eligible vehicle list, and then the purchaser will then contact an approved vendor. The vendor will then submit the voucher request to the Voucher Processing Center, and then in the next few slides I'll be going over the voucher process. So we can, next slide. So how to apply for a voucher. So we try to make it simple, just a simple 5-step voucher process. Let's see. So you'll see there, there's the 5 steps are listed there. Next slide, please. So step 1, preliminary voucher approval. So the approved vendor will submit the voucher request, and then just please make sure to provide either a purchase order or a quote along with that voucher, just so that we're able to calculate or verify the correct voucher amount. So we'll go ahead and review that information and also confirm that the purchaser or operator is in good standing with the BACP. If all those things check out, then we will go ahead and assign preliminary voucher approval to the voucher, and we will at that time reserve the funds and assign a voucher ID. Next slide. So here we have an example of the application. So we will be asking for basic purchaser information, just some contact information. We will also need the licensee's information, and then for the voucher request, we'll ask for either the new vehicle information or the conversion information. Next slide. Step 2, voucher approval. So for voucher approval, the vendor will have to submit a signed vendor terms and conditions form and also the purchaser terms and conditions form. So we'll just go ahead, there we'll just make sure that the purchaser agrees to those terms, and basically we'll assign voucher approval. Next slide. So the next slide is an example of the vendor terms and conditions. And all these forms are available on the website under the taxi program. And then next slide, please. This is an example of the purchaser terms and conditions. So it's a little longer. I guess a few of the items, that stand out would be that the new vehicle or the vehicle being converted does have to be owned or leased for at least 3 years from the date of purchase, and then that the purchaser or operator will have to provide semi-annual surveys for those 3 years. Next slide, please. So here we have step 3, voucher redemption processing. So here we're just kind of, it's just so that the vendors can let me know that we're getting ready to deliver the vehicle. So at this time, I would just ask them to confirm the price of the vehicle or conversion, just in case, it did change or whatnot. And then just give me the date of delivery. So once that information is provided, I will go ahead and release the redemption form, which is just a simple form that you would have to sign. And then next slide, please. So then for step 4, voucher redemption approval. So once the vehicle has been purchased and delivered, then the vendor will have to provide a set of documents just so that we're able to make sure that the purchaser and vehicle that were listed on the voucher request form were the vehicle and purchaser that received the voucher and was delivered to the purchaser. So a few of the items, they're all listed here, so it's basically like a signed final invoice, DMV registration, and some photos. So once all these items have been turned in and they've been approved, then redemption approval is granted. Next slide. So for step 5, voucher reimbursement. So once redemption approval is granted, then the voucher processing center will submit the voucher to CalSTART for voucher reimbursement, and then the check will be mailed to the vendor. Next slide. Okay, so here we have a voucher application timeline. So since this is a first-come, first-served basis, program, we do want to keep a timeline just so that we make sure we're moving these vouchers along. If we do run into some issues where we need a little more time, we should be able to grant extensions, but we do want to keep to this timeline. Next slide. And then here is just the contact information. So all voucher documentation can be submitted either via email at info@drivecleanchicago.com, or it can be mailed, and the address is there. And then our website is down there. All the forms are available on there. And yeah, any questions, just email us at that email as well. So that's it. I'll pass it on to RuPaul.
Hello, my name is Rupal Bappat, and I work with the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. I just wanted to inform the participants, anybody that's interested in the Drive Clean Taxi program, to keep in mind that the vehicle can also be eligible for wheelchair accessible funding. So it's not one or the other, it can be both. So if a taxi cab is eligible, it's either electric or CNG conversion, not only can the vehicle get the $10,000 from the Drive Clean program, but it could get up to an extra $15,000 for the conversion. Same applies for both, for a factory-built vehicle. There are some factory-built vehicles that are both wheelchair accessible and CNG. So for the wheelchair accessible part, it's a $20,000 reimbursement, but the CNG portion of the vehicle is also eligible for up to $10,000, up to 80% or up to $10,000. We do have information at the department website. It's cityofchicago.org/BACP on the accessible funds and the type of vehicles that are eligible for wheelchair accessible funding to be a wheelchair accessible taxi cab. And just keep anybody considering the Drive Clean Taxi program can also consider accessing accessibility funding. And that concludes my portion. I think that's the last slide. Oh, here's questions and answers.
Thank you, Rupal. That's a really important piece of information for participants to keep in mind. At this time, I'd like to thank our speakers for participating in today's webinar and for Alicia and CalStart for putting it together.